I'm Jon Caldara, president of the Independence Institute and your devil's advocate, introducing easily the gayest show I have ever done. Two gentlemen that have been trying to flip me for years. Senator Pat Steadman, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having us, John.
And Mark Ferrandino, minority leader at the House of Representatives.
Thanks for having me.
You guys had a fun week this week. This was impressive.
You have a strange notion.
Oh,
Yes.
Come on, don't tell me you didn't have fun. For those who don't know, if you've been asleep this time, you got this close to passing a civil unions bill through a Republican-controlled legislature. And the excuse was you, sir, your team dropped the bill so late in the session that the Republican leadership just didn't have time to get to it. And let me push that on you. You introduced this bill at the beginning of the session. It didn't get through the democratically controlled Senate, which you could have done any time, until 2 weeks before the end. Why?
3 weeks. And the bill sat in the Appropriations Committee for quite a while. You're quite right. Partially just because of budget issues. Bills that go to appropriations wait until after the budget bill is passed, most of them. But more importantly,
Sounds rather procedural. You're starting to sound like Frank McNulty there.
actually, I care about procedure. And as a member of the Budget Committee, I was a little busy with a lot of other things about the state budget this year, and a lot of bills sat in the Appropriations Committee for a long time. But more importantly, there were a number of requests from folks in the House that had been considering stepping up to be a Republican sponsor of the bill and not making my friend Mark Ferrandino bear that load again this year. They had asked us to slow it down so they could think about it, so they could talk to their constituents, talk to their colleagues, and also so they could maybe get through their county nominating assemblies on April the 14th before they put their name on the bill.
If I understand this, you good Democrats wanted to help out the Republicans in their primaries. That's why you delayed getting this bill over to the House, so it was past their primary season, because you care about those Republicans not having a primary. Come on, you want them to have tough primaries.
There's a lot of things I'm willing to do to have bipartisan cooperation on the legislation I sponsor.
Come on.
Serious?
Come on.
Really? Is that shocking?
Yes. Color me skeptical. I am convinced, and tell me that I'm wrong on this, I'm convinced that this was such a huge political win for your team on this, and that civil unions is an inevitability. It is going to happen. If it doesn't happen in the special session next week, it'll happen next year. If it doesn't happen the next year, it'll certainly happen in the next election after that. It's a done deal. But it is so good for Democrats. It is an adhesive that keeps the Democratic Party empowered. It brings in activists. It brings in dollars. Within 30 minutes of the president saying he favors gay marriage, he got $1 million worth of contributions. Calling me skeptical, but I don't think many in your team really want to pass this. I think it is great to keep this dragging along, particularly during a presidential year where this could be a great benefit to your team when it comes to unaffiliated voters.
You know, we were in a position where, and I had a conversation with the speaker about this, that yes, politically, you'll hear from a lot of consultants who say, oh yeah, if it dies, you'll be okay, politically it'll benefit you. But from, I think, both Senator Steadman and myself and a lot of the people like Jon Caldara, Colorans for Freedom, who are pushing this, at the end of the day, it's about getting the policy. And you know, the Republicans and the speaker had two choices: either play games, which we saw on Tuesday night, playing gimmicks, shenanigans being done so that we actually killed 30 bills as a collateral damage of killing civil unions.
Listen, anytime you don't pass legislation, I'm a very happy guy. So good for that. But you say procedural. Let's go back. You could have put this in much earlier and taken away at least his argument, just as you said, we like our procedures.
John, we could have sent the bill to them, 2 weeks into the session, and they could have held it in committee till April or May.
But they might not have. You don't know.
Last year, they killed it instantly upon sending it over. And so looking for a Republican sponsor to carry the bill in the House and set a different tone and a different message about why this is legislation that really enjoys popular support why we ought to have bipartisan cooperation, how there are Republican members of the House willing to support this. We were looking to make that statement and have that kind of sponsor on the bill, and we came this close, and we're ultimately told no.
Bring it back to the point that this was a huge political victory for Democrats, the way that the session ended. This was, Republicans looked like,
John, I
like the guys who just can't get it done.
The way this session ended,
they didn't destroy it. They didn't send it to a kill committee. They used procedure, and it went down. I think this was played in such a way that they're going to win. If they win, they were going to win, they would still lose, and if they lost, they still lost.
We were gonna get to this place if the bill was sent over in the second week of session, or if the bill was sent over 2 weeks before the end of session. When the Republicans say, well, we would have had more time. The bill was out there since the first week of session. We were talking to Republicans the entire time. It got introduced it got over on a Friday. Didn't actually get introduced till Tuesday because the Speaker sat on it for a while. We could have moved it quicker than they did, and we could have had more time on the floor. But they would have eventually put it on the floor. Majority Leader Stevens did not want to bring it up. She would have not brought it up, and we would have kept going through the business of the House until the last day, which was that Tuesday that we could do seconds, to force the hand. We would hope they would do the right thing, but we weren't going to let, at the end of the day, them kill it on procedural motions and on the calendar, so we forced their hands. We would have ended here no matter when the bill came over. And
let me keep going with my thought that this is such a winning issue for the left that once it gets over, that it brings so much energy to Democrats, it brings so many money, it brings activists. Once it's over, that's going to be harder to do. There are a lot of homosexuals who are libertarian leaning. They're like me. And when you lose them on this issue, or once this issue goes away, they might start focusing on economic issues, they might focus on other things, and you might not have them in your team. Let me push again. Hang on. You had 4 years with a governor who was willing to sign it. You had a legislature that could have passed it any time you wanted, but it got introduced as a bill when Republicans took control of the House.
I think you're making some assumptions about Bill Ritter's willingness to sign this bill.
How would we know? You could have put it on his desk. Why didn't you put it on his desk?
In 2009, Representative Ferrandino put on his desk a bill called the Designated Beneficiary Agreement Act. And this created a estate planning tool for unmarried couples that contains some of the probate code and other wrongful death and workers' comp benefits that apply to married couples. Governor Ritter signed that bill in 2009. He said in 2007 when he took office he was not going to entertain anything about domestic partnerships because of what had happened with Ref I, and that was the one thing he was willing and able to do during his tenure.
Wait a second. The gay rights movement has had such expansive success over the last couple of decades. You're telling me that one guy, the governor says, I might not sign it, I don't want to see it on my desk, and you're that respectful of it? My guess is if it was Bill Owens, you would have sent it to him if you could, and you would have put it on his desk and forced him to veto it. Why didn't you give Bill Ritter the same kind of respect? I guess what I'm saying is you had 4 years. Why didn't you do it?
Bill Owens did twice veto civil rights legislation protecting the lesbian and gay community.
But not civil unions. That never made it to his desk, did it?
Employment discrimination protections.
Never made it to his desk.
We're in 2012. 2006 was when Ref I went down and the marriage
What was the number,
amendment.
by the way? For those who don't remember, in 2006 there were two things. One was a constitutional amendment to take the Defense of Marriage Act, one man, one woman, that's what marriage is, from statute, put it into the Constitution. That won very comfortably. Ref I was a civil unions statutory law. That was defeated pretty soundly. I forget what it was.
I think there was
like 53% no or 54,
yeah.
somewhere in there.
It was close. It was in 5 to 10 points of each other.
It was a solid defeat, but it wasn't a blast. All right.
Right, but lots has changed since then. I mean, you look nationally at the attitudes in terms of recognition of same-sex couples. Over a year ago, for the first time, the support for gay marriage, not civil unions, but gay marriage actually is over 50% in our country. You look at, and this is one of the other things that I think was key in getting it out of the Judiciary Committee and out of other committees this year, which we didn't do last year, was in the State Republican Assembly. They had a platform around civil unions. Roughly 46% of the base of the Republican Party voted for that platform. I think that was important because if we moved the bill before then and it was in Judiciary, I don't know if we would have had the votes to get out of Judiciary. I think things like that, and organizations like Coloradans for Freedom, which were Republicans organized to try and lobby and advocate for Republicans to support this, were key in moving the Republican members who might have been on the fence to a yes.
All right, then if it's so popular, let me go back to my next thing of why I wonder if strategically you guys really want this passed because it's a winner. Why not just make it a referred measure? If Tim Gill has the money to put into the Colorado Democratic infrastructure, if he had money to put Ref-I on, he certainly can spare the $250,000 to put it on the ballot. You guys could do it for free with a referendum. Why not that?
I don't think a referendum would have gotten through the legislature either. Now, we could have gone the initiative route with petitions. You're right. That takes a lot of money and organization. And
heaven forbid, you know, the gay community does not have money or organization, so they wouldn't be able to get that done. That was sarcasm, by the way.
I mean, let's put somebody else's marriage up for a vote. Let's put somebody else's rights on the ballot.
I'm talking politics.
Why the legislature meets every year to decide public policy issues, to resolve conflicts, to make Colorado a better place for our citizens. It's our job to do these things.
You're missing my point.
But the point is you're going to politics. We're talking about policy. Basic civil rights should be done through the legislature, not through the ballot box.
Really? So if there was, then why did you support Referendum I 6 years ago? If policy is your end goal.
Neither of us were in the legislature when Referendum went through.
But you voted for it, I would imagine.
And worked on it.
Wait, let me get the question out, and then tell me what a jerk I am.
At that point, that referendum bypassed the governor who had twice vetoed civil rights legislation.
Hang on a second. If policy was the big answer and not politics, why not, with an organization as great as the gay rights community and as well funded as the gay rights community, why not put it on the ballot for this year? There wasn't even anything introduced in the title committee. You could have even had a placeholder there and threatened it. This is why I suspect the desire to actually get this done politically, although the policy, you want the policy. If you wanted the policy and you're convinced that 75% of the people here in Colorado want it, then put it on the ballot.
And last year, when we were in the Judiciary Committee, amendment was offered to move it to a referred measure. And the Republicans who were saying, well, you know, the voters have spoken, if you want this, put it on the ballot, voted against that amendment. So, you know, last year, you know, we tried to at least do that, and it would have been on the ballot in 2012.
Will you try that during the special session?
No, I think this is the job for the legislature to take care of.
Right.
And we have,
and
here's the thing to remember.
It might not be policy that's important.
No, hold on. We have the votes in the House. We had the votes in the Senate, all the Democrats, 20% of the Republicans. If they allowed the vote to happen Tuesday night and didn't stop the action of the House just to stop this equal rights legislation, then we would have had all the Democrats and the same, roughly 20%, if not a little more, of the Republican caucus.
I think you would have had more than that. By the way, let me take an aside on this. When this comes to the floor, if it happens then or if it happens in the future years, I think you're going to find that it's not going to be 2 or 3 guys that vote for it in the Republicans. They're going to say, you know, the tide has turned. It's going to be 7, 10, maybe even 15 of people in my party are going to split, and they don't want to go down as records of the guys who voted against this. And I think a lot of them want to vote for it, but feel that their constituents.
Or said differently, it's not just going to be the women in the state Senate that vote for it. Some of the men will vote for it too.
Well, and that goes back to the point of why we waited, was exactly what you said, is the scare of the politics of the Republican base that Republicans were worried, and that's why we waited to try and find a Republican sponsor to help them get through that. And this is all proves why it's not politics. If we want politics, we would have started the first day of session, got it over, and got it to them.
Let me try. Wait, let me get it out. Good God, it's tough talking to politicians, particularly gay ones. I mean, was that homophobic? All right, here we go.
You're outnumbered.
You guys are doing a hate crime on me. If it's policy you want, then why not help bring it to a vote? You guys can still bring it to a popular vote this fall, and it's over and done with.
Let me offer 2 points on that. One, I think it's wrong to put any particular group's rights on the ballot up for a popular referendum, let the majority decide whether or not some group, whether they're the majority or the minority, has rights or not. I think that's just offensive. It's not how we should use our referendum process.
But you supported and worked on Referendum I.
More importantly, let's look at our recent history. In the past 20 years, there have been 3 different ballot issues that have gone to a vote in Colorado, and in each one of those, the gay community was handed a defeat. And so even when people seem to have the attitude of, oh yeah, I think this is okay, this seems fair, something happens. The demagoguery of the campaign, the fear, the misinformation, they go into the privacy of the voting booth and they pull the wrong lever. Why should we take our chances with that kind of closeted in the voting booth bigotry that seems to come out when we ask voters to vote on our rights?
So let me see if I'm getting what you're saying. You don't want to bring it up for a popular vote because you might lose. And if you lose, that's going to set you back politically, instead of the legislative track where you're getting closer and closer every time, and you're certainly going to have a victory.
I don't think minority groups' rights should be decided at the ballot where the public is informed by fear-mongering 30-second spots on TV.
All right, then you and I have a different level of trust with the people. I think on this issue, I think you win. I think the issue passes.
Maybe now we would.
Yeah.
But
and by the way,
historically, we haven't.
But it seems to me if policy is what you want to go at it at every angle. You want to go at it through the legislature, and you want to go at it through the initiative process. You want to go at it. I am convinced that there are some in your movement, including maybe the guys who hold the money, like Tim Gill, that say, wait a second, I don't want to spend money on something we can get done in the legislature, or people who know this is going to be good for the Obama campaign later on. I'm just saying it makes me wonder.
But if it was so good for politics for us, if it didn't pass, then why did the Speaker allow us to have that political win? Why didn't you do the right thing and allow a vote on the House floor and move it on?
Maybe he's not as clever as the 3 of us.
Maybe that might be true.
This is what I love. The legislature last night, everybody was all kissy when they did their goodbye speeches, and I know you guys behind closed doors. All right, let's move to another subject that I think could have helped, which was Sean Mitchell's amendment. I know I'm getting into the weeds, but this is good stuff. And what he was worried about, and I think it's a legitimate concern, is that some people are still not comfortable with gay marriage or civil unions. And it's fine to say that government will be agnostic on it, and it's 2 people, however you want to do it. But if the wedding photographer that's getting called says, I'm a Catholic, I'm sorry, I'm uncomfortable, I don't do civil unions, that we want to protect his ability to have that association or not have the association. Sean Mitchell, a guy who 8 years ago you never would have thought would even have considered this, has come around, and he offered what seems like a pretty reasonable accommodation for that. You didn't let it pass out of the Senate, you generically.
Actually, I personally opposed 2 of the 3 amendments Senator Sean Mitchell proposed. One of them we passed. The other 2, even though everyone cites that wedding photographer example, didn't deal with that issue. He had one about counselors and therapists, marriage and family therapists that do couples and relationship counseling, wanting to give them the right to refuse to serve same-sex couples in a civil union. And I think that, to me, it invites discrimination to say these folks are fair game, everybody else you have to serve in the course of your business, but these folks you don't. His other amendment was specific to banquet halls and rental facilities where a ceremony or a party would be held. So it didn't help that photographer.
But
it helped
the Catholic counselor who might not want to do it because he believes that's sinful for some reason.
Well, maybe they shouldn't be counseling people.
Well, maybe
if you don't want a civil union, don't get one. If you don't want to rent out your banquet hall for people that are going to have a party there for a reason you don't like, maybe you shouldn't be renting banquet halls. And if you're a counselor offering help to people who are having problems, and you're going to sit there and judge them and discriminate against them because of the nature of their problem, maybe you shouldn't be counseling.
But all right, what if a counselor says, "I'm sorry, I don't want to counsel people who have this particular issue." A counselor should have the right to do that. I think that was a reasonable concern, and it would have swung even more Republicans.
And
over.
in the debate in the House Appropriations Committee, where a similar memo was actually adopted on a party line vote, Representative Levy pointed out that actually in statute they already, as someone who's in that kind of licensing counselor relationship, they already have the right to refuse to serve people if they don't think they can help the person.
But the
deal with their issues.
banquet hall owner or the photographer?
So if you're out there selling something as a a service? And then are we going to go and then say, okay, you can say, no, we're not going to allow interracial relationships to be able to be married here. We're not going to allow Hispanics. We're not going to, I mean, you get down the slippery slope of discrimination.
But we're also,
that
well,
doesn't
hang on,
make-
let me take that. We're also getting into the balance between discrimination and free association. The Catholic Church does not have to marry a couple that's been divorced, where people, and
and they
that's
don't have to
their
perform
right.
a civil union either.
And they don't have to perform a civil union.
You're mixing public accommodations with the free exercise of religion. If you're in the business of offering a public accommodation, renting a banquet hall, come buy merchandise in my store, if you're open to the public, serve the public. If you're exercising your freedom of religion within your house of worship, within your denomination, do what you will there. But out in the stream of commerce, if you hold yourself out open to the public and the public can rent my facility to have a party, don't get too judgmental about who all comes along to rent it.
We're only about 6 minutes left, so I want to get into. I'm all a Twitter about what's going to happen next week in special session, and let me compliment Hickenlooper for calling a special session quickly. I mean, I think if he wanted to be completely partisan about this, he would have said, let's do it in August, let everybody calm down, have their summer break, and bring it closer to the general election where it could blow up and bring up these issues again. So credit to him. I think now's the time. The question was, we didn't have time? Well, now you have time. So give me your predictions. If McNulty had the time, and if the House had the time they claim, it would have gone to a floor vote. It's just a procedural thing. So put your hat on. What's going to happen next week?
You know, I think when we see the call that just came out on the special session, there's civil unions and several other bills that died with the civil unions because of the stalling in the House. Those bills, the other bills, I think have bipartisan support. I think those will move. Some of them are really important, like the water projects bill, $20 million in projects and jobs across the state that really needs to pass before the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th. So it does need to happen soon. Civil unions, my hope is, and my
I know what your hope is.
my hope is we get a full debate on the floor. But if the Speaker was willing to kill 30 bills and willing to stop the action of the floor on Tuesday night, I don't see why we're going to get a different outcome. So I am fearful that the Speaker is going to either send it to a committee where he knows it's going to die, or where he is going to play games so it doesn't come to the floor. And my hope is he lets the democratic process work and actually allow the will of the majority of members in the House of Representatives to vote up or down on the civil unions bill, because that's the right thing to do.
So your prediction right now, not going to pass.
Right now, you know, I think it's unlikely because nothing's changing. We still have the same Speaker, the same majority leader, and they both are dead set against it and using every procedure to try and stop it, and they were successful.
They've already dug their grave. They might as well lie in it.
That's heartless. That's hard. That's just
Heartless-
political.
heartless
That's just
is what we
All right,
saw
so
Tuesday night.
I'm not telling you what you want them to do. Again, my suspicion is many
No, I would love to see this bill
Democratic
pass, John.
operatives don't want to see this pass because then the issue goes away.
But not for tons of LGBT families across
Right.
the state who, you know, between now and when we pass this next year, if we don't
I believe
pass it
there are
this year,
Democratic strategists who are happy that you had this victory, that you're getting closer and closer and closer, but until you get there, it helps the movement. I'm looking for a prediction. You're predicting the same outcome.
Defeat. But I'll tell you, there's Democratic and Republican legislators that have constituents that want to see this happen.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no
And so,
doubt.
I
whatever
think-
the consultants want, I mean, we're here to represent our constituents. We're doing this to help real people and real families all across the state.
Well, the other side believes exactly the same, but with different reasoning.
And I would say the one thing that might change the outcome, because Wednesday morning when I came into the House, I had lots of members, even members who were opposed to civil unions, wouldn't vote for it, apologizing for what happened that night, the night before, the games that were played, how it was done, how it was killed. They thought that did not live up to the institution and what we were supposed to do as representatives of the people. And so if they and others outside put enough pressure on the Speaker and the majority leader and ask them to bring it up for a floor vote, then I think we have a chance. But that's the only way things are going to change, is if we can convince Speaker McNulty and Majority Leader Stevens to change not their minds on the bill, because I know they're both no votes, but change their minds on intentionally using every step to kill it.
But that's what they want to do. That's the joy of being leaders. And Democratic speakers have been able to kill things they don't like.
Go back to one.
Hang on a second. Since we're tight on time, if there is a bill introduced that brings it to a referendum, will you support it? Let's start here.
I'd have to look at what is in the bill.
Yeah. Political answer. Come on. Would you support it?
That's not the bill I would introduce.
I didn't ask you that question. See, you guys are answering like Democrats. Answer the question. If there is a bill to refer to the voters this fall, would you vote for it?
If the House sent that over to the Senate, yes.
Would you send it over to the House?
Actually, we're going to start in the House this time. The Senate's been on record on this issue for 2 years. Why introduce a bill in the Senate in this current posture?
I'm going to introduce a bill that's going to go to the governor's desk. If a Republican wants to introduce, or someone else wants to introduce a bill to refer it to the people, then let's have it. Let's have the debate. And if that's the way to get it done, I'm open to it. So.
All right, so that's a yes vote.
I'm open to it, I said. I didn't say
Oh,
yeah.
come on. What politicians?
Well, it depends upon if someone who's opposed to civil unions, which and is going to bring it, because I think that what's in there is not going to be what's in what we're trying to do.
But if it goes to the public for a vote, I think that would be a good compromise.
But they call it civil unions, but it won't be civil unions in actual content in the bill.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
All right, it's going to be a great special session. We'll find out. I'm looking forward to it. I got
Glutton for punishment.
No, it's great because HBO is doing pay-per-view on it now. It's like a fist fight. It's going to be terrific. How long do you think it's going to go?
3 days.
3 days.
3 days, and that's it.
Yes.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and that'll be that.
And hopefully no disgusting scenes like we saw Tuesday night.
I told you, gayest show ever. Pat, thank you. Mark, thank you. And thank you. Listen for me on Sunday afternoons at KHOW. Go to independenceinstitute.org. Tell a friend. We'll see you next week.